Hello, my name is Julian Fersing. Welcome to BI Talks, a series of podcasts dedicated to architects and engineers' vision of the actual construction market. We look at the different trends, both on the constructions, but also on the design phase of projects. The first series is dedicated to the Polish market, and today we have Bogdan Lisowski and Yuri Sadowski, two Polish I would say main influencer in terms of the architecture. They are representing SARP, so the Polish Association of Architects. And we will explore today the different aspects of the construction market in Poland and also education of architects and having like an overview of the impact of technology in this field. Bogdan, Yuri, welcome to BI Talks.
Hello.
Hello. It's a pleasure to have you today, both of you. I'm happy that we managed to find also some time today to sit down and talk about what's happening on the construction market, on the architecture market, and specifically on the Polish market. To start, I would like Bogdan for you to introduce yourself and to talk a bit about SARP, its mission, and the overall organization of the Polish Association.
Thank you for the invitation and great introduction. Maybe I will start from my name. Officially, my name is Bogdan, but I'm not use this name. Everyone calls me Bish, and this is the name which I'm familiar to. So please.
I will continue with Bish.
Yes,
like
of course.
And
going to the Association of Polish Architects, I'm working since year 2000 in the some levels of the Association of Polish Architects. I started, of course, in Krakow. I came from Krakow in the main board of Krakow branch. Then I was since 2012 until 2019 president of the Krakow branch, and since 1st of December 2019 I'm the president of the Association of Polish Architects here in Warsaw. Some information about the association. The roots we have in the Association of Krakow Technical Associations, which started 1877. So we counted more than 140 years. Wow. As the story of Association of Polish Architects. Right now, it is 24 branches in 24 cities in Poland, more or less 4,500 members. In Warsaw, the headquarters of association is located in the Palace of Zamoyski on the Vauxhall Street, beautiful place.
Beautiful place, yeah.
And we are doing maybe most important thing. This is, in my opinion, the honor prize for the best architect in Poland. It is the prize started in 1966. Last laureate was Zbigniew Maćków from Wrocław. But also association is arranging competitions, architectural competition in Poland. Started in 19th century, before the Second World War, when the association in this form was established in 1934. Is the main thing we are organizing. So the competitions are numbered. We just passed the 1,000 of that. So
that's really
on our counter we have probably 1,007 right now.
Wow.
And a lot of them are also not numbered. So I think this is the second amount like that. So this is what we do. we have the special division, or we call this collegium of competition judges, which are nominated and elected by the colleagues. So this is the best recommendation, and they are also our members for judging the architectural competitions. We are also doing a lot for the young people, like the competition Best Diploma of the Year, which started more than 50 years ago. And of course, Prize of the Year for the realization which is finished at the year before the prize is given. So it is many things we are arranging. Also the publications, the exhibitions, the lectures. This is what the association is doing.
Thank you very much for this really detailed introduction, and I really appreciate history which is behind that. We can legitimately say that there is a huge, I believe it's one of the oldest association, probably, yes.
From the technical or the association which for this profession which is related somehow to creation is one of the oldest, yes.
Really impressive. Yeah. And for sure with such a history and track of architecture, I think there is many trends to be able to see the evolution, yes. Yeah. Yuri, on your side, something which is not casual for me was to meet with you the first time and knowing that you speaking 7, 8 language, if I remember.
I'm speaking fluently, more or less fluently, 5, I think.
5 language.
But then I also have basic knowledge of German, Latin, and I started to learn Armenian.
Okay.
Yesterday I had my first exam.
Really interesting. It was funny to mention because the first time we met, we just spent the whole meeting speaking in Polish English, and then you just say me, hey, but wait, I speak French.
Yeah.
So and then we just moved.
That was a funny discovery.
Yeah, exactly. So Yuri, you are leading also all the event happening for the Warsaw branch of SARP. Could you also tell us a bit more the organization on your side? I understand there is a lot of events and presentations which are done also.
Yes, well, I would be a local patriot and I would talk a little bit about the Warsaw branch of the Association of Polish Architects. So we are more or less by far the biggest branch, which is more or less normal. But we have more than 1,000 members. We have about, 12, 15 sections or teams that are grouping the people who want to do something. For example, painting, or for example, sustainable development, and etc., etc. So I'm a member of the association since 1993, but I wasn't really very active in it at the very beginning. I was a member, just doing something from time to time. But then I became much more active about, I think, 6, 7 years ago. So I was a treasurer at the association, then I was representative of for contacts with partners at the Warsaw branch, and 2 years ago I created something that I called an event team, which is Sekcja Wydarzeń przy Oddziale Warszawskim Stowarzyszenia Architektów Polskich, because we felt that we need to do it better, more professionally and just better. We are trying to focus on several topics that we would like to continue, as for example, circular economy in construction, and we have also another cycle, the presentation of ourselves. So it is a series of events called the Architects of the Warsaw branch of the Association of Polish Architects, where we invite some teams, some offices, some architects to talk about themselves And it is very welcomed, and we have always a big audience, and it is very interesting for colleagues and for students and for the general audience also. And then myself, I'm an architect, an art entrepreneur, and also I'm very, very active in the Armenian society in Poland.
That would be interesting to ask you, since there is like also like big heritage in terms of architecture, also like both on the Polish market, but I believe also in Armenia. What would be one project which really resonates in you? One project which build, not build, historical or not, but one project which really speak in your heart, and if you could tell us about more.
And I think those things that are more close to my heart are classics. And what they say, simple is always beautiful. For example, the National Museum of Art in Warsaw, which is a wonderful building, wonderful building. And it's been renovated lately, and it is something majestic, you know, really you have a feeling that it's something, and it is simple. It is so simple. And it was good, it is good, and it will be good.
Okay.
As a lot of things by Frank Lloyd Wright, I might say another master. I've been to United States and I've seen some works by him and saying, Jesus, 100 years ago, and it is still
Modern.
so modern.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So modern.
Yeah, I've been like 2 years ago actually in Phoenix visiting like one of his residence, the residence, the house for his grandma, as it was called, yes. And it's impressive, yes, when you see in nowadays context, you see like already some early thoughts about domotic, like I was like looking about more the tech part, yes, and the organization of the room, the practicality, and it felt like that it was just like designed like a couple years ago, not like 100 years ago.
Exactly. Well, we've been, for example, in Scottsdale, in Arizona, and well, the things that are there, it is, well, okay, you know, the project was not done like 10 years ago, but it still looks modern.
Yeah.
Then we've seen in Chicago, Robbie House. Wow, you know, it's cubes, vertical, horizontal, nothing special, but wonderful, the proportions, and it is good, and it will be good forever.
Bish, do you share that? But because on your side, what would be your...
This is very interesting, your conversation about Frank Lloyd Wright, because if I can find in my memories the building which gives the highest impression in my life, it was one of the buildings next to Phoenix, Arizona, by Frank Lloyd Wright in the 20th century. It is hotel. I have opportunity to visit this building by, let's say, some accident. It was not the trip to...
By mistake.
Maybe not by mistake, but in the way from Phoenix to Vegas, and it was on the way.
Okay.
And when I came to this building, when I passed the door, and each detail, even the pillows on the sofas in the lobby, the knobs, the door locker, and it was designed by the architect. So this is complete design. Not only the building, but also the all interior. It gives me some discover that's architecture can be so complete. I never feel like that before visiting this building and after. Of course, I was in Guggenheim Museum in New York, which is completely different comparing to those buildings by right, especially Robbie House and this Arizona buildings. Going to the buildings from 21st century, I like very much the Oslo Opera House by Snohetta. I think that this is a masterpiece of architecture. I can say that I was 2 times in this building, outside, inside. This is building which is not only the opera house. This is the invitation for the people to the very high level of culture, which opera itself is. That they can walk on the roof of the building and be a part of the event through this big window, so they can, even without any ticket, see what happened inside the crowd, the spectators. So I think that this is much more idea in this building, just the opera house itself. Yeah.
To invite in the people and to feel like the connection between.
And also it shows the Scandinavian culture perfectly. So equality and democratic.
Really interesting. Both example that we're giving a really product which leave you with emotion. Yes, you're just like speechless and you are just contemplating those buildings.
About this completeness, it reminds me about Unity Church by Frank Lloyd Wright, also in Chicago, that I visited also, and I was really also overwhelmed to see that not only the building itself was designed by him, but just everything, every detail inside. The lamps, the furniture, just everything.
Right.
And it all matched.
Let's talk about the Polish market also. Like Poland has also a huge architectural legacy. I was recently in Torun visiting also the hometown of Nicolas Copernic, and was impressed also with all the connection with the historical part. Warsaw was a city which were almost fully destroyed during the Second World War, which leave a big design which needed to be done. And I would like to understand what is the approach to mix between traditional town, for example, Torun, where we keep this traditional part, and the cosmopolitan aspect of Warsaw. How to find the equilibrium? Where do you mix the past with the new with such a legacy?
I would say, the destruction of the city was a tragedy on one part, but also an opportunity, we might say, on the other part. But this opportunity, in my opinion, wasn't explored to the full extent. But it's a problem of zoning, and master plans, and let's say planning and design on a much bigger scale. We have some general rules, I would say. So we have some parts that are preserved, like Old Town, the Royal Route, which is from the Old Town to the Wilanów Palace, with Royal Castle, Belvedere, and so on.
Wonderful streets.
Krakowskie Przedmieście and all that, which is really a wonderful axe, we would say. But a lot of big axes and big plans from the past been a little bit lost somewhere. As for example, Oś Saska, which is the Saxon axe, which was surprisingly closed by turning, which was a masterpiece of engineering, turning a palace of 90 degrees, a huge building, not far from here, but it closed the axe, which in its idea was an axe that should be open. So, well, nowadays we are working on a new, it's called Studium Zagospodarowania Przestrzennego i Rozwoju, which is well, a study about the development of the city, and let's hope it will be a new opening. After war, real estate, the ownership of the land in Warsaw, that's a huge problem because there are a lot of questions that are not resolved, which is causing problem of development, because some parcels are just frozen because there are some questions. And it is also a problem linked to that only about 40% of the surface of Warsaw is covered by the local plans, which are the documents that are saying what should and could be built, how, in which way, which is not very much. And then if you don't have a plan like this, then the building permits are given for individual parcels, which might be a problem because, well, you know, it doesn't, sometimes it's not linked.
Bish, in such context, what is a good architect in your opinion today?
This is a very good question, because when was some research done by asking the owner of the architectural offices in Poland what the qualification, what the skills are most important for hiring the people, the first rank was honest. So not the language, not the digital preparation, because in my opinion the rest is less or more easy to upgrade for the young people. So in this meaning, when you're asking about the architects in Poland, I think that's one of the greatest can for sure preserve the context of that what is around they work, and in my opinion there is no architecture without the context. It's hard to imagine, especially in Poland. Maybe somewhere else it is possible. So we have a lot of great examples for keeping the historical monuments and the preservation by adding the new modern architecture in the proper way. So very not loud, no shout architecture. Yes. In this matter, I think that the architects need to have some, let's say, self-control for adding a new building or adding a new architecture with preserving what is around.
That's really interesting. Looking at the different projects, also I have in my mind, for example, Fuzja in Łódź. Also, there is Browary Warszawski. Sorry for the pronunciation. I hope I'm good with that. All those are example of mixing, yes, integrating the past, but by giving still a touch of also a bit the future. And I understand that it's really
for example, we have the great example from the last year, Elektrownia Powiśle. Yeah. So this is the building which is given back to the citizens. So real industry building, abandoned, with a very great project by APA Wojciechowski. Now is one of the center where the people from Warsaw can be a part of the historical monument given back to the people. Yeah.
So it's not really only a trend. It comes way deeper than just making something which looks good. It comes to the values that all the architects cherish the most, and what make a good architect, which is like the honesty and the integration.
The architecture during the buildings, during its period or life cycle, very often change the function. So that's why we have lofts for dwelling, for living in the industrial zones, and it could be a great new area of the cities. We changed the offices for flats. We changed flats for different things. So it is about adding some extra value for the architecture if the time is coming. We have examples from the 60s, great modern Polish architecture. For example, from my city, Krakow, is Hotel Cracovia. Beautiful building, let's say the star from opening in the 1965, one of the best buildings at that time. Then the building lose the function of hotel because of some requirements. I don't want to explain that, but now is probably it will be a part of the National Museum in Krakow, and if it will be possible, maybe a museum of architecture and design. So this is a point that can turn the architecture will usually in that context, especially in the United States, will be demolished because the rate of the ground is so high that it will be a shopping mall or something like that,
Right.
or condos, or you know. Thanks God, this building is secure right now, and maybe it get a new life. Yeah?
Really interesting to see, yes, like the importance. I think it's something which, as you said, that is more similar for the European market, like the heritage, and to keep this heritage than replacing. One element which is directly connected, and Yuri, it's a topic that is close to your heart, is sustainability. How to design today like a building in terms of the sustainability, not only for what I understand the energetical aspect, but also the whole life cycle of the building and the different usage, like the example that Bish was giving with the hotel, which were not a hotel and again a museum. How to design such a place and have all these parameters when you create a building?
From one side, I would say thank you very much for this question. Although maybe I'm not the best person to answer from a practical point of view, because to tell the truth, I've been very active as an architect, but it was some time ago. But one of the things, the topics very close to my heart is, as you told, the sustainability, sustainable development. And it is not only that it is trendy, and we have those sustainable development goals of the United Nations, but it is a need. So that's really a big challenge for the architects. And we see such a effort from the designers to imagine how it could work. So let's say thinking about flexibility of plans, flexibility of functions, and I would say smoothly we're going to a topic that are close to the heart of all of us, which is BIM. Because that's a tremendous tool that also enable modeling virtually before actually building in reality, give a very powerful tool of mastering everything, and let's say also imagine what it could be like. I met an architect from Netherlands who is designing precast, prefabricated buildings that might be built, then just unscrew, let's say, and moved. He made quite a lot of buildings like this, and he's thinking about the whole life cycle. So, and the carbon footprint and what it will become, whether it is, we can reuse it or recycle it. And I think that's really a big challenge, especially that developers that are, let's say, they are paying for the investments, they don't really care about. Because they want to build, sell, and go to the next construction. But the people who will live with it, who actually are the users and those who pay for it and will have to live with it, they don't have very much to say. So there's a huge role of the designer.
Bish, I would like to ask you, how do you prepare students to such a big challenge which are coming?
I think that's going back to this conversation about the sustainable design is also the thing it started probably 20 years ago. The talks about it, and according all what you say about the carbon footprint, about the reuse, recycle, and so on. The awareness about the sustainable design, we also call this responsible architecture. So to build or design the facade of the building according to the climate in that place where it is, or that location where it is located. Also using the materials, local materials, so avoid the long transportation for the construction material, and so on. And I think that we are right now in that point. The students of architecture have the quite good knowledge about that. So they are prepared that they can do what they want, but they have to do according to the climate change in the world, and design with highest responsibility for that. So Yuri said about the calculating of the ground project and facility management, but I think that sometimes even that is not counted on.
Of course not.
Only
it is something pretty new.
Yes.
I mean, to take into account.
We have very bad examples from the 90s in Poland, when the aqua parks was built in the small cities in different places.
Okay.
It was quite cheap to build and extremely expensive to manage because of the heating. This is very bad example.
Vision camera, it
Yes.
should be like red.
Yes. So this is the example we should show for students of architecture, that they need to take into consideration, and they need to take care about the whole life cycles, even after and design the reuse of the building.
So like having like this full vision, yes, which is like really
should be left to, let's say, with a question mark.
According to the conversation that we had, I see that there are three main elements which come for what is today the quality project. When we design a building, I see like firstly something which is the core, the honesty that you mentioned, yes, the honesty and the respect, because it starts from there.
Yeah.
Then we have the aspect of the flexibility, because taking consideration that the building will not be always what it is right now. And what we just talk about, the sustainability in the meaning like thinking after the building will be deconstructed also. So it's like a really wide...
Including that, yes. But I think that it is very simple, the three keys for the quality architecture. It is nothing new. Vitruvius said, utilitas, firmitas, venustas, so three points. It will be fixed together. It gives the results. So
we're getting back to
2000 years, the recipe for the good architecture is quite easy. But the rule of architecture is those 3 points make contemporary, so make adjust to the technology, to the needs, market needs, and give in all those things more responsibility, more, as you said, respect for piece of art at the end of the building.
Right. I would like to ask you a last question, especially to you, Bish. Do you think that technology will kill the creativity? Because when I hear from Yuri all the parameters which we need to take in consideration to design.
No. This is the way of thinking, the same from the 18th century about the replacing the human work by the machines, especially from England, and trying to destroy those machines in fabric industry. So I think it only can help. For example, quite new thing is the generative design. So the architect is also some kind of the programmer who can adjust some things to get the best result, which is completely impossible without those technology. Of course, you can have a luck and get this result by the talent, the creativity, intuition, and whatever else. But if you want to have the check this or double check this, you need the computer technology. And according to the education, we also need to educate the young people, young architects, who will replace those things of that way of meaning of thinking about the design process, which we have right now. We have the two revolution in changing of the way to design. First was replacing the desk by computer. Yeah, so this is very easy to understand. From manual the drafting to computer drafting. The second revolution is not so significant, because it is replacing the computer drafting by the parametric design. So it is in the same environment, but the way of the thinking about design is completely different. Not all people can handle this and switch to that. So the future is in the young people and young hands for that.
I feel that we have our conclusion. That's like, thank you. I see that the importance, yes, and that technology, for what you're saying, is here to enhance and not to replace or reduce the technology.
I'm sure that it never comes the time that computer as the machine or cloud will design the architecture. This is impossible. It can help a lot. It can replace a multi-task of process. It can help to find the best solution, especially by simulation, which is a core thing for sustainable design, because simulation give you a result related, for example, for this carbon footprint. Yes. So it always will be a human center of that.
Thank you very much for this really in-depth conversation. I think for all the students which are watching, there is definitely a bright future in architecture. There is definitely like a big challenge to come with the respect of the past and what is coming. Any final words, Yuri?
Yes, I would like to add only one thing, because it reminded me that among a lot of things that I've been doing in my life was also teaching. Academic teaching. For 6 years, I was teaching at the Faculty of Civil Engineering, the easy thing, computer-aided design. And it's been actual there, and it is actual right now. And what Bish told, the computers, software, they're only the tools. So remember, young people, it's only the tools. So you're the master, and you cannot be driven by those tools. Use them, but use your head and common sense.
Thank you very much for
you.
your time. This closed the second episode of BI Talks. We have like a really in-depth conversation about the impact of architecture in the past, in the present, and in the future, and never more than before technology will help enhance the process. Please, if you have any questions, follow us on the social media and share your thought about that. Until next time, thank you very much. Merci.